What's up, everybody? Welcome to the High Level Husband Podcast. I'm Tommy McCollister, joined by Diane McCollister today.
Hey, everyone.
We're back, guys. We were off, gosh, babe, for like a little over a week. And I don't like to do that because this is like such a big focus of ours in a lot of different ways. But guys, we were putting in a ton of work into our coaching program. We built a lot of the coaching material and just put them all on steroids, basically the program. And so we're so excited what God's been doing in our life on that. Because the old program got a ton of results, like insane results, but we were like, man, we can make it even more robust. And so we did. And then we also just held a marriage advance. We call our retreats advances because nobody's retreating here. We're all advancing. And then we did that. And so we just decided to go on the back burner for a little over a week, but we're back. Life is going to be a lot of focus on this right now, guys. And so here we go. And so today, babe, we are talking about how to recognize if your spouse, this could go both ways, but primarily for men to recognize if your wife has not forgiven you, how to apologize properly, and then also how to forgive properly as well, because there's steps and there's so many ways that are dynamics of this, babe, where people can't point it out, but then also apologize wrong and forgive wrong at the exact same time. So we got to have the right steps.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's dive into it. Here's the 4 signs that you need to recognize, guys. First, they bring it up during conflict. If they still weaponize your mistake in every disagreement, it means the wound has not healed. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, but it does mean no longer using it as ammo. And so this is a huge one, babe, where like oftentimes it still gets brought up. And I know people, like just from a husband's side of things, if we have, apologized and things like that, we're hoping it doesn't get brought up again. Or at least I would say most people are hoping it doesn't get brought up again. But if it does, it's a giant red flag in those areas.
Just like people always say, don't keep score, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like you're keeping record of all the wrongs that people have done. And we're not supposed to do that in any way in our life, especially in marriage.
Right. Because in 1 Corinthians 13, it talks about, love doesn't keep a record of wrong.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about that. If they are still keeping a record of wrong, it's not because they're a terrible person. It's that the love hasn't encompassed their heart fully wherever they're at in their walk, but then also you as well. What has actually changed for that to happen, right? Because we've talked about this so much in forgiveness is that, yeah, we can ask for forgiveness, but if we haven't repented and turned from our ways, then they're not going to fully see or trust you. So that's where the guy has to take ownership in this. And we'll get onto those aspects into that. But when you take ownership on it and you've actually turned from your ways, good things happen. But if you guys don't want to take ownership, and because of that, they haven't changed their ways, and that's why their wife still hasn't healed from those things. It's not because she's a bad person by any means. Number 2, they avoid deep emotional or physical connection. Pulling away isn't just distance, it's protection. If there's hesitancy to be vulnerable again, they're still guarding themselves from being hurt again. We have seen this tremendous amount of times because emotional or physical intimacy, especially for females, like you really have to put yourself in a vulnerable spot to be able to do either of those.
Yes.
And if you've been hurt, you just kind of want to avoid, you want to deflect how most people do in life. They just deflect pain instead of embracing it. And so that's really tough for a lot of them.
Yeah, because when you're in that state, that's the last thing you want to do is get that's like the most vulnerable you can get, and so that's a hard one to get to if you're not ready for it yet.
So if they're at that spot, guys, and they're really not opening up vulnerable and physically, like emotionally, then chances are this getting to the physical side of things is going to be really hard. And I just know this from wives who've been in this spot. Sometimes they will go to the physical spot and they'll do it, but it's more out of like, all right, let's get this over with, more than like a passionate connecting thing, because they love you and they want to, serve you in that way.
Yeah.
But man, like that's a dangerous place if that's the only time you're having sex, is if your wife's doing that. And so just really take notice of this. I'm not going to dive too deep on these guys right here, because we're going to talk to like how to actually really move through these. So number 3, they question your motives even when you're doing the right thing. You're changing, but they assume it's temporary or fake. Why? Because the pain trained them to be suspicious. Until they see consistency over time, they won't relax into belief. This is really like how we teach in our program, the 4 stages of growth. And maybe you guys have heard us talk about this on here before, but the 4 stages of growth when you are in any spot of marriage, but particularly if you're in a bad spot of marriage, number 1 stage is yeah, where was this for the past 15 years,
Yeah.
3 years, how long it's ever been? Why are you changing now? You're only changing now because it got to a bad spot and I told you I'm leaving, or
Mhm.
whatever the reason is, or I cheated on you, or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
That's where it's at. And they're gonna be like, where was this change? Why are you now trying to be this super awesome husband and following God now? Where was this for the past 18 years? That's stage one. Stage two is they're like, all right, I see you've been consistent with this, but now I don't believe it's going to last. I'm waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And they always think that that's going to happen because you have a history of the shoe dropping.
Right.
And then the third stage is, okay, I see the consistency. The shoe isn't dropping yet, but I want to trust. I'm starting to trust, but I'm scared.
Yeah. Still leery of it.
Right. And then the last one's full surrender and submission in
Mhm.
those areas. But this is where this one's so true. If she's still questioning that and
Mhm.
saying that, guys, it hasn't been long enough.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you stop.
Right. I mean, it can take different lengths of time. I mean, some people it's a few weeks, some people it's 3 years. I mean, it's different depending on everybody and what they've gone through, you know, and where their heart is or what trauma they've had in their life. Or, I mean, it can be so many different things.
It's so hard. It's
Mhm.
so hard for so many people, and that's you're so well said on that, babe. Is that the time frame for all of those stages to go through is different for
Mhm.
how much trauma maybe you've caused them, or
Yeah.
even if it wasn't you who
Yeah.
did it, what they've had in their life, but you as who God gave them to you to disciple. And so this mission is on you. That's why we always say marriage isn't for your happiness, it's for your holiness. But when you get that holiness, the happiness just comes with it as well. It's a byproduct of it.
Mhm.
The last one is their tone is colder, even if their words say they're fine. They smile, but it's empty. They say, I love you, but it's robotic. They go through the motions, but the warmth is gone. This is emotional self protection disguised as resolution.
Mm.
This is emotional self protection disguised as resolution.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, guys, this is like where you like say you're sorry, and they go, it is what it is, whatever. I accept it, whatever, and they keep it moving.
It's fine.
But you didn't move. You actually didn't talk about it in like these next steps I'm going to give you here in just a second. That right there is just self protection.
Yeah.
And what all that does is it makes them like this exactly thing. They're colder. They say they're fine. They say they love you,
Yeah.
but they're not like that passionate, like in love with you. That's where they're closed off emotional. That's where they're doing all these other things above that. And it's because they're self-protecting in a lot of ways.
Yeah. That's where that resentment builds, and those walls, those brick walls just keep getting stacked higher and higher because nothing is actually resolved.
Right. And so that's where it's really tough because you think they're cold or they're mean or they don't love you. They're just scared. And
Yeah.
it's so weird when we say that about like whether women want to feel safe and secure, but it is the truth where like we all do it as men too. And like, and men would be wrong. That's why men don't get vulnerable, because they're scared of rejection, of not getting approved, no significance, respect, and things like that. So they just don't share.
Right.
And so they're scared. And so they don't feel safe to be able to share, because then wives have used them against the husband as well, just as the husbands have used the wives' things against them. So it's just better just to not say anything than to actually say anything.
Yeah.
Right. And it's tough. I go through this on the calling on my life, and same with you. You know, our family mission statement is to turn believers into followers and disciples into disciple makers by living boldly, speaking boldly, and loving boldly. To be able to do that mission and calling on our life, like which has been prophesied, but and like shown, it's not easy.
You got to get uncomfortable sometimes.
There's multiple times per week that I'll be like, man, that's a tough conversation yesterday. I really challenged somebody hard on that. And my flesh, it happened this morning. I woke up and I was remembering a conversation that I was having with a buddy last night. And I was like, man, I really just gave him the truth. And I'm like, man, that like hurts in certain aspect, because my approval side of me that wants to be liked and loved and significant and all these other things isn't going to get it in that moment. But I got to tell the truth, because if not, then all we're doing is dancing around the truth, and everybody just stays the same. And when you stay the same, you're dying.
Yeah. And even if they don't appreciate it in that moment, they'll appreciate it down the road. So,
right. Because at the end of this day, we could all just want to be liked by our spouse, by our kids, by anybody in this world. But if we're speaking the word of God, just as Jesus was crucified on the cross, so we're going to be crucified in those ways. And it is what it is, but we're storing up treasures in heaven. It's not about this life. Paul says, I consider my life worth nothing to me.
yeah.
And as hard as that is to say, that's where I'm at with my life. I consider my life worth nothing to me. And that means I will be bold, and I will tell the bold truth. And that's not easy.
Yeah.
But that's how you get the growth. And so let's get into the right way to apologize, because There is absolutely a wrong way to apologize. And that's why your wives will stay in those other aspects of things. You do it the right way, you are going to collapse time, guys, in so many different aspects. So number one is to humble yourself. Start with remembering you've been forgiven by God. That should break your pride and soften your heart. Don't come in hot. Don't come in trying to fix her feelings. Come in humbled. This is a massive one, because if you come in humbled, you can come in with just like your true, authentic self.
Yeah.
But if you don't humble yourself, your pride, your ego, your fears, all the different things will speak for you instead of just your authentic self and letting the Holy Spirit speak through you. Because if you let that, they'll see your tone of voice, they'll see all of that, and they'll see how you really are. Or if you come in with the other ones, guns blazing, and you haven't humbled yourself and you go to apologize, it's going to be like an apology just to get it over with. And like, well, I'm sorry I did that. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
that sounds real and authentic. Like you actually mean it, right?
can't we move on?
Yeah.
You did it too, babe. Like, but I get it. You do these things too. Don't act like you're a saint. I'm sorry. I know I messed up in this time, but don't think you're a clean saint too. It's like, whoa, dude, humble yourself.
Yeah.
That might be the truth. Your wife might have a part in it. She might have plenty of things she needs to.
Yeah.
But you know what you can do? Control what you can control. And Jesus washed feet without expecting to get his feet washed in return. He led by example in those things. You be who you are called to be and what you can control. Come in humbly on those aspects. And that's tough to do. That's a super tough one to do. So
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard enough to even like say you're sorry or apologize a lot of times, especially when you guys aren't in a good spot. That makes it even 10 times harder, but to actually come in and be vulnerable and expose yourself of like, this is me and I'm sorry, that makes it even harder.
Because most people aren't genuine with it.
Yeah.
Because their emotions are controlling them.
Yeah.
That's why, in Mark 12:30, the number one commandment, God says to love God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. But I'm just going to touch on the heart. That's your feelings and emotions. If you are letting your feelings and emotions control you, your tone of voice, your actions, your decisions, then you're an amateur.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I say that because I can't say I'm 100% perfect at it, but good Lord, I've grown so much in that area, and I would say I'm 98% perfect at it in those areas, maybe a little bit less. But it's just so important when we can control those emotions, because if you genuinely come in like an authentic tone like this, dude, everybody's going to be cool with it. You come in slightly off and the walls will stay up. But when you come in authentic, those walls will come down and they'll see that you're actually genuine. And even if they don't respond in that moment, later on when their head hits the pillow or in their quiet time, they'll know. But if you come in wrong, it justifies them coming back at you wrong.
Right. And then nothing ever gets resolved because everybody's just hot about it, and then it never ever gets resolved. And once again, the walls just build and nothing
100%.
ever changes. Then it's just a vicious cycle of going in a circle of that keep happening.
So the next one would be to take ownership. This one's hard for people.
Yeah.
Because I was just talking about this with our team yesterday, and a lot of guys who want to come in the program or whatever, they don't make it to the selection process because they're not willing to take ownership of it. They want to blame their spouse. Now, taking ownership doesn't mean that you had all of the details and so you just, excuse my French here, but crap the bed. It's typically because you don't understand. You don't know. Like most people have no idea what the purpose of life is, but yet they want to be a leader. But how can you lead your family if you don't even know where you're leading them to? Where are you leading your family? I want to be a good leader. She won't follow me. Dude, yeah, no wonder she won't follow you, because women want safety and security. Where are you leading them to? Like where? Well, do you even know? No. Well, the Bible says seek first the kingdom of God. Well, do you know what seeking the kingdom of God is? What that looks like? Well, no. It's like, so what? You're not a leader then. Where are you leading them?
Yeah.
Like if you're a team leader on a business or running a company and they hire you to run the company and what are you running they give you the vision of what you're supposed to do. Same thing in a marriage. You have to lead them too. Most people think that the purpose of marriage is being a nice guy, and the purpose of life is to be a good guy, get married, raise nice kids, send them off to college, save for retirement, and avoid pain and have some nice experiences. They think that's literally the purpose of life, and provide financially for your family.
Wrong.
Could not be more wrong.
Yeah.
That's one of the branches, a couple of the branches on the tree, but the trunk is to love God, love others, create disciples of all nations via your talents and your testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and it doesn't show, there's nothing in the Bible about you get to heaven by being a good person. You get to heaven because of retirement. It has nothing about being retirement. Doesn't mean like sending your kids off to college. What it says is raise them up in the ways of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about providing for them financially, sure, a little bit, but mainly emotionally, spiritually, and all the other different areas.
Right.
But people don't understand that. So right now, where they're leading their family, they're not really leading them anyways. They just want them to support their mission of making money and buying boats and a house and taking them on trips. They're missing the mark in life, and they're wondering why their marriage is jacked up. We're going to actually do a podcast on this later in the week, guys. But we want to touch on that. So I know you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, you're right about what you said originally, though, that women want security. They want safety. If they feel uncertain about anything, it's not going to go good. If what you're doing is buying boats and having all these expensive things and doing things like that, they just see the money going out and they're freaking out because they're uncertain of where life is even going, and so.
And they're seeing a husband sell his soul,
right,
and his time,
yeah,
to do that.
Right. They don't ever get to have conversations or see each other. They don't know each other because he's working so hard to pay for all the things that they're buying to make up for all the voids that they're missing, and it's so unsecure then, everything for both of them.
And so this is where it will come. This is, guys, like, that's not necessarily your fault, guys, because nobody told you this stuff.
Right.
Now you have the Bible. You have access to unlimited information, especially today and age. But this is where even churches miss the mark. They don't shoot it straight to the men to say, like, dude, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And because they want to, again, tiptoe around the truth. They don't want to just be them authentic self, because it will rub people wrong. They don't want to be bold as the Bible challenges to be, because it will rub people wrong. And hence that will come back at them. Dude, you got to do it. It will suck, but it's also the only way to do it in that. So that's where take ownership comes. Even if you think she did worse, even if you didn't mean it like that, even if you were just tired, say it straight. I was wrong. I hurt you. That's on me. Own your part, no matter what hers was. Now, when I say own your part, that doesn't mean say, well, this is my part of the ownership, and you, as soon as you point the finger, wall goes back up.
Right.
And so that's where you have to take ownership, and just take the ownership that you maybe didn't even know that you're missing the mark in all of these things. This is what it's about. Just take your ownership part, because if you are leading and your family on this mission, you're actually loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You're really doing all of that. All these things will fall into place. That is biblical. It's 100% biblical.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, that's where you have the ownership. She will follow you. She will submit to you in that. But if you're not doing those things, it's not going to happen. So we're going to do a podcast on this later week on like why wives aren't submitting to their husbands in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And like we did at our marriage retreat this weekend, Marriage Advance, and we basically ran them through an exercise that proved to them that all the marriage, basically it was like really high percentage of the marriages had no idea what the purpose of life was. They have no idea of the priorities of life that where it should be. They were doing they were not even followers of Christ. They were just believers in their habit. And we proved that. And none of them had a community that are followers, know the purpose of life, and have the priorities in life on. And they're wondering, no wonder your marriage is at this spot.
Yeah.
No wonder. And it's just like, but they don't know that. And I will honor them and say, that's not all just on you. Nobody's ever taught that yet. Unfortunately, schools teach you trigonometry, and they think that you should know about, history, and that's going to make you a great husband. Sorry, that doesn't do it, people. And there's a reason why the churches teach, or the school teaches that. We don't want to get down a conspiracy theory. So the next one is give an action plan. So when you take, take ownership is that one. And then after that is to talk through it with standards, not excuses. Explain the situation, but only to bring clarity, not to escape blame. And then we'll go into the next one. I just want to touch on that. You can touch on. Explain the situation, but only to bring clarity, not to escape blame.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that everybody does is they bring all the excuses that they can of why they're right or why they're not wrong or
what happened.
What happened? Yeah, the reason behind it, it's excuse after excuse after excuse, not taking ownership for themselves. And even if they didn't do it, they need to take ownership and not use excuses.
Right. So it's not to make excuses,
Yeah.
it's to bring clarity to the situation. This is what happened. That's on me. Blah, 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 blah. Now I learned this. Let's do it. But most people want to like explain what happened and you did this. And because you did this, that's what led me to doing this.
Yeah.
And you're explaining the situation as like they're to blame on that, instead of just explaining the situation and setting the standard that this will not happen again. And I'm going to give you my word that this won't happen again.
Right.
Then strive for excellence, which is one of our family's core values.
Yeah.
Excellence, right? Now, are you able to be excellent at all time? No, but you can get darn close. And as this journey goes on, you will get more and more excellence. At the beginning, do you have to give a little bit of grace? Yes, for sure. But then tighten it up, because every failure you have is a lesson to learn. That's why failing is not a bad thing, as long as you take that lesson and turn it into a blessing and actually grow in your life on these things. And so set the standards, talk it through. Give an action plan's the next one. Of like, after you're telling her this is why it happened, but here's the action plan of how this is not going to happen again. Because if you just say, I'm sorry, and then you're like, it won't happen again, that's all talk.
They've heard that a million times usually.
Let her know the action plan, so then she can see you do the action plan. Because then if they can do that, they go, oh, he's actually putting this action plan into place, so he will prevent him from doing X, Y, and Z, no matter how small or how big. This isn't just if like you yelled and screamed and smashed something or you cheated on her. No, this is for any aspect of things where you drop the ball and you have to apologize on it, that she needs to see, hear, and feel it. She won't feel it if she doesn't see it. You can't just let her hear it. She has to see, hear, and feel it for this to be able to happen. You have to give an action plan. Don't just promise it won't happen again. Lay it out how it's going to be different. What habits are changing? What accountability is in place? She needs to see it in your discipline, hear it in your tone, and feel it in your presence. Trust is built through consistent actions. And so she has to see you being in the Word, or joining a men's group, or being physically fit, tightening up your diet, sitting in solitude, praying over the family, encouraging her more, doing all of these things that you say you're going to do. Do it. You're going to get off work by this time every day. Get off at that time. I don't care if it's going to cost you your job. Explain that to her. Be there at that time. Your marriage is more important than you making a paycheck on the back end of things. You set that standard on it, or talk to her, explain it to her. Like literally, guys, most people just base their decisions on all this stuff. We've shared this before on all of this aspect of things. Literally, I could add 2 hours to my schedule right now, per week, not day, guys, per week. And I would make over $100,000 more a year. And I said, no. I told my team, no, I won't do it.
It's not worth it.
2 hours, guys would be like, oh, come on, man. Like, dude, it's just 2 hours. No, that's going to take 2 hours of energy draining and outpouring out of me, that I then won't have time to do podcasting, or I won't be able to love on you, be playful and fun as much, because 2 hours will add up, compounding effect over the week. That's less time I'll have with the father. That's less time I'll have with the kids. It's maybe less time I won't be able to have at the gym. Everything's going to be that much more. I'm going to be running at, especially those 2 hours will cause a drain to be able to drain me that much more. And my mood will be different. Everything will change. The money will not replace that. Cool. What's the money going to do? What's it going to do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No. But because I have more energy, my marriage is going to be better. Because my marriage is better, it's going to show possibility to other people. Because my fitness is more on point, it's going to show possibility to other people. And my kids, I'm having a healthy body because I'm with my kids and spending that intentional time with them. I'm having more time that I can raise them up, because I spend more time with the Father. Guess what? He's giving me bigger ideas, and then I'm going to be able to put those ideas into place with more energy. And those bigger ideas in the long run will make me far more money than those 2 hours a week of $100,000. And so now I've probably turned those 2 hours a week into not only what I turned down $100,000, it'll probably make me close to $1 million because of that. And then I'll be able to take that $1 million and I'll be able to bless the kingdom tremendously with majority of it because of that. And that'll be doing bigger things than what's God saying. He can be trusted with little, can be trusted with many. Now he'll give me even more, which then I'll even then do it in return. And I'll be able to eliminate and delegate other things from my life, which is going to buy me more time. And then boom, 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 so on and so forth. I spend more time with the Father, getting even bigger ideas, spending more time with my family and kids. And it's just going to so on and so forth. Most people trade their time for money, and they've sold their soul for money, and they're exhausted, they're wore out, and they're overwhelmed. Why? Because they have no time with God. How can they have no time with God? Because they're exhausted, wore out, and all these other things, and distracted. And because of that, they're stuck working a million hours trying to just get by and keep up with the Joneses. I'll just change your guys' life if you actually just put that into play. Well, how do you do that? With obedience, with doing things that are hard, chase the line, do the big things, do all of that stuff. I just spoke it over to somebody at the marriage retreat this weekend. They were talking about, man, we're in the Dave Ramsey plan and that's really limiting us and all these other things. And by the end of the week, when I give my testimony and I show them how every single thing that we did was crazy and ridiculous and did not make sense and logical, and 1000% on the opposite side of the Dave Ramsey plan. And guess what? Our soil is producing 100 times fertile soil because of that. But had I just stuck to this isn't smart, it doesn't fit into my business plan, I should do those 2 extra hours because that's going to take me $100,000, which will then I'll be able to do this, this, and this, and blah, 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 blah. Guess what? I just sold my soul for money on those aspects of things. Yeah. God doesn't do anything that's logical in your life.
Yeah.
Just walking on water, logical. Backing you up to the Red Sea, logical. Sell everything and follow me, logical. Peter, come follow me and get out of your boat. Oh, wait, by the way, Peter, you're married. Oh, you don't have a job anymore. Come follow me. Oh, yeah, he's the provider of the family, especially in that time.
Yeah.
Come follow me. Smart, logical, fit in the Dave Ramsey plan? No. Dude, don't get me fired up. Don't get me fired up, guys. Give an action plan. Make it happen. Be non-negotiable, uncompromising. So let's jump back in, guys. I think we said a technical difficulty right there. But baby, you know what was going on? We were ripping right there.
And the devil's like, I'm going to try to weasel my way in.
Oh, you know what's crazy, guys, is I didn't even tell my wife that's what I was going to say, was that the devil tries to win. That's how you know you have a wife that's kingdom, is she recognizes spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
Do you think that my wife is submitted to what we're doing for the kingdom? Yeah. When she speaks like that, guys, and that's not who she used to be, dude, I'm telling you guys, this is stuff's real. So I'm going to keep it moving on this. We're hoping the technical difficulties didn't stop what we were doing. And how much tell you this, devil, right now? Oh, we advancing right in your face. And Jesus already won on the cross, put his foot on the throat of you and said, it is finished.
Woo.
You can go ahead and strike the heel. But guess what? He already won, devil. He already won. And guess what? We went in too. Go ahead and come for us. In the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. Get up out of here and get up out of every single person who's listening to this right now, out of their homes, out of their marriages, out of their kids' life, and out of their businesses. In the name of Jesus, we rebuke you, devil, and you are not welcome in their homes or any of their aspects of their life at all. So, guys, that was just a little side note on that. So let's keep it moving. So after the action plan, guys, that's what you have to really let her see, that action plan. And the last thing is remain poised even when the past gets brought back up. I'm telling you, the first 4 steps to know that she hasn't been fully forgiven yet. She might have been forgiving you in aspects, but she hasn't really fully been healed. And that's the aspect of it. So don't get defensive. Don't shut down. Don't say, I thought we were over this. Mm-hmm. Your job is to be an emotional rock, especially when the storm resurfaces. Her bringing it up isn't betrayal. It's part of the process. Pass the test. Guys, she's working through it. She has years of the past things. To get to a spot where they don't bring it up anymore and it's not an issue, it is possible. It is so possible in many ways. But guys, it will get there expedited faster if when she does throw it in your face and gets defensive, you do what Jesus says and to turn the other cheek. Mm-hmm. But if you don't do that, what you just did is you took and you pushed it farther down the road of her to how to do this. And you're going to, again, have to pass this test again. So you just failed the test. It's like a driving test. When you fail it, you got to go back and do it again, right? Well, in this specific situation, you'll have to do it again. Mm-hmm. You'll have to pass the test that you can, when she gets defensive or whatever, or brings up the past, you take it on the cheek and say, no, I totally understand that, babe. That was who I was. I told you that I'm sorry. I genuinely mean it. If you feel like I haven't changed yet, I get it. I'm working through it. Here's what I've been doing. Remember when I told you that this was the things that are going to changing? Yeah. I have been doing them. And I think you know that I'm changing, and I'm sorry that you still feel that way. And I understand that I really hurt you. And so I know that you're actually feeling that way. I love you. And I just want you to know I'm going to keep you doing it. You just repeat this process again and tell her those things. Mm-hmm. So that's a really, really big part of it, guys. You just got to keep this process going. I'm going to touch on these last steps really, really fast here, guys, because we got to shut this thing down here and keep it moving. But I'm going to touch on this last one, the 5 steps to forgive your spouse. Now, this is for a husband, or this can be for a wife as well. But remember, this is the 5 steps to how to forgive properly, because your wife's going to do things too that you need to forgive for. There's
Yeah.
right. So the first one is, remember you were forgiven by God, for you've been forgiven more than you'll ever be asked to forgive. Let grace flow through you, not just to you. So many people forget that. And the Bible talks about, if you've been forgiven, you must be, since you've been forgiven, you must forgive as well. That's not a suggestion, it's a command. So just always remember, guys, that you were forgiven first, and God still is constantly forgiving you. Yes, you might have gotten a lot better, but there's still things he's still forgiving you for.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? So you have to do that for your wife. And he took the punishment for you. You willing to go to the cross? So that's a massive thing. Number 2, take ownership for your part. We've already touched on this, but this is where, if you're forgiving somebody, the best way to help them to do that and to soften it all and to remove shame from them is to say, you know what, there's my part in this as well. Even if it wasn't your offense, did your leadership, passivity, or distance contribute? Own what's yours, not to take blame, but to take back authority and break down shame that they will place on themselves. So your wife is placing so much shame on her. And even though it seems like venom and snake bites coming at you, when you take the ownership from her, because you're the leader of the house, even if she was the one doing majority of it, you were also not doing enough to be able to lead her away from that.
Right.
And even though you're maybe doing a lot better than you used to, there still is your part in it. Take the ownership on that in the correct way. Because I know so many guys who take ownership and they go, well, I guess it's just my fault then. I'll take the ownership. And I'm like, man, you're wasting your time. Don't even say it then.
Right. Yeah. No, take it
Genuinely.
and mean it, and yeah, be genuine about it. And her heart will soften over time. It might take a few times or
Right.
so.
Because you want to take the blame off her so she can do what? Feel safe.
Right.
So she can soften.
Right.
So she can get into her feminine. But if you don't take that ownership off of her, she won't feel safe. She won't get into her feminine, and she won't be soft. A woman that feels safe, is feminine and soft. Guess what? One is emotionally secure and intimate with you, and then will want to be physically intimate with you on those as well, which then the emotional intimacy and physical intimacy only fill up the cup even more because of it. But that's where you take the blame over here. And what you're really doing is you're taking the weight off her. You're putting it on yourself, but then you're not even putting it on yourself. That's where you'll sink. If you're holding it, you know what you do with it? You give it to God. You give it to God. You let him carry that weight. He's asking you to. If you don't know how to do that, the next leadership one will be big on this, but you give it to God. So the next step is to talk about it and set new standards, as we talked about in the last thing, is to don't sweep it under the rug, talk through what happened, then establish clear standards so the cracks don't repeat. If you're forgiving her, say, you know what, I'm sorry that this happened. I took my ownership, but let's put some clear standards in place here on how this isn't going to happen moving forward, which leads into the next one. Raise the bar on yourself. Your marriage reflects your level. If something broke down, ask, where can I be better? Discipline, communication, presence, leadership, or love. When you rise, your marriage does too. So that places into it. And so then you're just saying, hey, babe, I totally forgive you on this. I have my ownership part in this. But as a team, let's really raise the standards here. I'm going to do my part to make sure I'm leading myself a little bit better. So that transfers over to you in those areas, because not because you're not amazing, that you are amazing, but as a team, let's roll up to it, be a powerhouse in this and raise those standards and agree to hold each other accountable. And so when you've taken ownership off her, that makes her not feel as bad. And then you're saying, can we do that together? She's like, yeah, because she has that shame and regret and feels like, man, she dropped the ball. Now you're saying, well, we'll do this together. It makes her feel way better on that.
Absolutely. When you're doing things together, it just gives you that extra confidence,
It's a team.
Right.
That's why God gave your wife to you as a helper.
Yeah.
And the last step is just to pray over each other. Nothing strengthens connection like daily spiritual covering. This isn't optional. This is your new normal. It's how you protect the healing and invite God's power in. So with that being said, pray over your wife, guys. This one is so powerful. Yeah. I was thinking about this at the gym today. It was like we had to do with our sons today. They started to get a little bit of a bad attitude because they had to do some things this morning. And then it's like, so because of that, they wanted to skip the gym today. And we said, no, that's not happening. So they were starting to get like an attitude. And I said, come here. I spoke life into them. I explained why. And I shared vision. They know our core values. I told them our core values, and they know them. And I explained that right there is attractive. And I already know from a wife, they're like, man, my husband's telling him the right things. He's not just yelling at him and saying, don't you talk to your mom that way. give me your phone, get your ass to your room. Like, no, I brought them in.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to them sternly about in this type of tone of voice. I explained to them all of that things, and they know what's going on. Well, what else do? I pray over you and I pray over the kids, right? I'm going to always cover our family in those aspects. It's attractive, but not only that, it actually is powerful. The number one thing that we should be doing in our walk with God is prayer. So many times when people ask, man, are you a Christian? How's your walk with God? They go, oh, well, I believe I haven't gone to church in so long. I didn't ask you about your church, bro. I asked you, like, do you love God? Do you have a relationship with him? How do you have a relationship with him? You talk to him. That is prayer. So many people just think that's like going to church. No, that's called religion, where you are separated from God. God lives inside of you, homie. Like you don't need to go to a building to get that. Now, is that part of your walk? Yes, it's a massive part of it. It's not the walk, though. So that's the last one. Pray over your spouse. Hope this one helps you guys on these action steps, on really all of that. Take notes on it. And because forgiveness will block blessings in your life.
Absolutely.
It'll block your marriage from holding back. Go ahead and make these things real and all of that. Stay tuned to the next podcast that we were hinting at. I think it's going to be really, really powerful. Guys, you want coaching? Let me know, because at the marriage advances that we do are ridiculously real and raw. Like, babe, we saw some insane things happen this week. So there was 9 couples who came. We baptized 3 people. We watched people who are saying they're considering moving out here now to be around us, because they got to be around 3 couples that are all high level couples, killing it, but all have insane testimonies of our own, right? They got to see how God's moved into our life. They got to go home with really seeing what the purpose of life is, having mission, got to experience community, got to get extremely vulnerable. We casted out demons. Like, we just did crazy things this weekend. There was insane amount of tears, but insane amount of breakthroughs and freedom. We had couples who said they had the biggest breakthroughs ever in their marriage. Everybody left individually better, and as a couple, so much better. And what's crazy is we only open these up to our clients. This isn't to the public. This is strictly for our clients. We pour into our clients. We love on our clients. And I know 100% that our coaching program is the number one coaching program for men and couples in the world, because we don't talk about no BS love languages and sit knee to knee and communicate. We get down to the root cause of things, and we break chains, and we free people up, and we give them what actually works, and we give them that mission for their life. And you should have seen how many wives came in, like, they were lost. And when they left, they were like, yo, I get it now.
Yeah.
And
so amazing.
What's crazy is, dude, do you think they're not caring about the dishes or you leave your shoes out anymore? No, they've got this kingdom mission on their life.
Yeah.
Just as what we have in ours. Is why we don't trip on any of those things. And so it was just so cool, babe. So guys, if you want coaching, that you will be able to when you're in our program, that is an opportunity to be able to come to these type of events. But if you just want coaching, come in and change your life, click the link below. If that doesn't do it for you, no big deal. Listen to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, give us a subscribe. That means the world to us. This podcast is free. Just keep listening to this. So anyways, love y'all. Much love.
Bye.